Hey, it's Gregg Stewart, and Joe at Crystal Lake Publishing invited me on here to make a few short videos about some of my favorite tricks and tools to craft better stories. Before I start, a quick disclaimer. These tips and tools I'm about to share in this video are not rules to follow. Still, if I discover a way to make a story better, more emotionally resonant, more compelling, why not make a few upgrades? There are a lot of moving parts to telling a great story. It's like building a race car engine with all these nuts and bolts to keep track of. I like to think of these tips and tools I'm going to share with you as a way to keep track of all those moving parts, help you better organize all the moving pieces to craft a better story. And as always, use what works for you and disregard the rest. And to be clear, I'm not claiming to be a story expert here. I've dedicated my life to learning all I can about crafting great stories, and I still learn something new every day. I also love talking about stories, so much so that I can't seem to shut up about it, which is why I really appreciate Joe inviting me on to talk about all this stuff with you. And thanks for joining me. Okay, let's get started. Writing hooky opening lines. A great opening line not only pulls you into your story and gets you excited to tell it, it also hooks the reader and gives them just enough reason not to miss this ride. The opening line should feel like the distant screams of the roller coaster before you ever see all the loopy-loops and twists and turns. We tend to think of the opening line as setting the scene. I often read stories, and I've written them, where the story opens up with the weather that day, or maybe the room the character woke up in. And while it's important to orient the reader in the world you're asking them to enter, let's consider that at their heart, stories are about change. If nothing ever changes in your story, I would argue you don't have much of a story, so certainly it would benefit from having at least a little bit of change. So one way to kick off your story is to telegraph that there are changes coming. Consider Ray Bradbury's opening line from Something Wicked This Way Comes. The seller of lightning rods arrived just ahead of the storm. Okay, talk of weather, yes, but also ominous, also weirdly convenient about this lightning rod seller. The storm is also a metaphor telling us that changes are coming. From Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, we have the opening line, "It was a queer, sultry summer. The summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs, and I didn't know what I was doing in New York." We've got weather again, the queer, sultry summer. It's no wonder we think that's all there is to it. But there's so much more here. Electrocutions. Perhaps a fascination with death, and the question, what am I doing here? I feel a change coming. There's also Stephen King's It with its opening line, "The terror, which would not end for another 28 years, if it ever did end, began, so far as I know or can tell, with a boat made from a sheet of newspaper, floating down a gutter swollen with rain."
Writing is hard. Publishing is harder. And doing both alone in the dark while questioning every life choice that led you here? That's just Tuesday. Crystal Lake Publishing's Patreon exists for exactly this kind of person. For $5 a month, you get access to our community, our resources, and the quiet comfort of knowing you're not suffering alone. For $10, we'll actually read your work and tell you what's wrong with it. Kindly, mostly. And for $15, that's Joe Meinhardt's monthly mastermind, where serious creators come to sharpen their craft, grow their careers, and occasionally stare into the void together. 3 tiers, 1 mission. Link in the description.
There's a lot here, but let's focus on the juxtaposition of the innocence of a paper boat floating downstream and unending terror that lasts almost 3 decades. We ask ourselves, how can something so innocuous as a child's paper boat wreak so much havoc? What's about to happen? The opening line can also let us know that a change has already occurred, like with King's Needful Things and the line, "You've already been here." Oh, have I? Or Lovecraft's Thing on the Doorstep. "It is true that I have sent 6 bullets through the head of my best friend, and yet I hope to show by this statement that I am not his murderer." I want to hear this guy's angle. Or from Octavia Butler's Kindred, "I lost an arm on my last trip home." What a devastating line. I don't even know this character yet, but the simplicity of the line is crushing. It pulls me in. There's a dissonance here, too. This is the subtext that comes up with all these opening lines I'm bringing up. On the surface, it's change. Either a change is coming or a change has already occurred. But what's beneath that, the subtext, is always a kind of dissonance. With King, with that opening line from It, we see that juxtaposition of the boat and the terror. And here with Octavia Butler, it's great. An arm was lost on the last trip home. You know, some of us resist going to visit family, but it's never that bad. What happened? It pulls us in. It reminds me, too, of Orwell's opening line, that Sultry spring day in April and the clocks were striking 13. Boom. We have a sense we're not in the normal world anymore. That dissonance is what hooks us, as well as subtext. Change on the surface, dissonance beneath it. I also love Richard Matheson's opening line from I Am Legend. On these cloudy days, Robert Neville was never sure when sunset came, and sometimes they were in the streets before he got back. Okay, cloudy days and sunsets, there's that weather again, yes, but why the urgency to get home? What's in the streets? That's the dissonance, and that's the change. There's also a fun third option I like to call the horror thesis statement. It sounds simple, but it's harder to pull off than you might think. If you can nail it, it's magic. Here are some examples. Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five famously starts, all this happened, more or less. Now there's a reliable narrator. Or how about Grady Hendrix's line from the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires? This story ends in blood. All right, is that a threat or a promise? There's also Nick Roberts' The Exorcist's House, which opens with, in Chasing Devils, all roads lead to hell. Indeed they do. I've always loved Edith Wharton's line from Ethan Frome. I had the story bit by bit from various people. And as generally happens in such cases, each time it was a different story. It's a great plot device to have a narrator that wants to get to the truth and solve a mystery and to take the reader along with them. But this line also points to something so much bigger. And it's that every story you read or watch or hear, it comes with a bias, it comes with a point of view. Voice. Voice is everything in a story. What you leave in, what you choose to leave out, it is unique to the teller. And that's what makes great writing. So many of us think we want to sound writerly when we write. But the truth is every great writer, every writer you love, found their unique imprint, their voice, their cadence, their way of telling a story. And it all starts with that first line. It sets the tone, which is why I thought it was important to do this as a first video, the opening line. And again, on the surface, it's about change. And in the subtext, it's about dissonance. It's about some juxtaposition that pulls the reader in. That's what you want to do. So if you're struggling with your opening line, let's consider these 3 jumping off points. The subtext of your line is either things were ripe for a big change, or things would never be the same, or the story is about this, that thesis statement. Most importantly, that opening line should cause the reader to utter those 3 magic words that every writer wants to hear. Tell me more. Let us know in the comments some of your favorite opening lines and why. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to get more writing tips and news on upcoming releases. I'm Gregg Stewart, and look for my book, The Isochron Treatment, coming this fall from Crystal Lake Publishing. Now go write something.